Keawe, I read an article that you wrote in Kawaiola newspaper for Oʻahu, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and you had some interesting ideas, and I wanted you to kind of talk through some of the things that you wrote, and specifically starting off with the concept of Hawaiians not trusting the government.
Yeah, mahalo Kalehua for asking that question. That seems to be a common thing that we're hearing in our communities, that our people don't trust government. I gotta say, I have a healthy mistrust for government myself as being a kanaka. But it's this infection and this spread of COVID is probably not a place that we wanna go there with the issue of mistrust towards government. And I'll tell you why. Because one is the government never make the vaccine, right? Scientists, pharmaceuticals did. In fact, the same pharmaceutical companies that make medication that many of our people take already for diabetes, heart disease, even erectile dysfunction, such as Pfizer, right? It's the same companies making the vaccines. So yeah, the vaccines are safe. In fact, a lot of studies have been done to show its efficacy or its effectiveness, right? So I think a concern that people have, about government, maybe not applying here right now, right? The government does want to get it out to the larger audience, to everyone, to the lahui, to everyone who can take it for free. So their involvement with the vaccine is really dissemination, making sure it gets out. But certainly the government never make the vaccine.
Mahalo for that answer. And I think, one of the concepts that you also brought up was the idea of the FDA approval.
Yeah.
And I think, as we've walked through and saw the vaccine, as the Pfizer vaccine get FDA approval, it seems that we're now transitioning into another concern that kind of ties back to the first
concern about government.
About.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about where we've kind of rolled now that we have FDA approval?
Sure.
Pfizer has FDA approval. Where are we going now?
Well, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approves a lot of all these other medications to make sure it's safe for consumption, for use in the general public. And as you pointed out already, Pfizer got its approval from FDA already, and Moderna will soon get it, as well as probably Johnson & Johnson in a few months. And really the timing is really around when they applied for full approval, right? So Pfizer was the first in July to do that. So many people now may say, well, I don't trust the FDA because it's a government agency. Well, the FDA has a great track record. In fact, many of us would say it's overly cautious. I mean, European countries elsewhere usually get things on the market much quicker than the US, right? You probably, when you went to Aotearoa, New Zealand, you see things over the counter that only now we're starting to get that were there 10, 20 years ago. I'm seeing some stuff too. That's because our government, the FDA in particular, is very strict about what gets out there for safety reasons. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it got emergency use authorization early was simply because its effectiveness was already established. It was safe, its safety was established. What wasn't established, that's why it took a while to get full approval, was how long would it last, the effectiveness, right? So you needed time to show how long. And also when we would need boosters, or if we need booster shots to make sure that it stays effective. Those are the things that were still in question, not whether it was safe. So now that we have full approval, it shows that it's both safe and effective, but also that it could have more longer-term safety effectiveness for us.
And just following up a little bit on that, because I know that I've heard a lot from the community that I live in, just about the idea, the actual track record of the FDA, and speaking about that there have been, some of these, some drugs or some issues with particular pharmaceuticals. But could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, for me, I feel like it comes with the territory, but what's your take on it?
I think it quite the other way around, where the FDA had been able to stop irresponsible companies from making medication, drugs, or over-the-counter medications that actually in the long term are damaging. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think the FDA, there's always going to be things that fall through the puka. Mm-hmm. That's with anything we do. There's always going to be that special case or things that come up that we just don't know. And when it does come up, what the FDA is good about is following up and adding more research if necessary.
Awesome.
And in fact, in the past, they have pulled things from the shelf when it was even if just had a little bit of concern, they would immediately err on the side of caution by removing until further studies can be done. So I think the FDA in this case can really be trusted around this medication, the vaccines.
Yeah, and I was reading more through the article and I saw the concept of what happens when you get the vaccine, like side effects, long-term effects, changing of the DNA, potential of microchipping and monitoring through those mechanisms. What's your response to those types of concerns?
Well, like most medication, most drugs, right? There are going to be side effects, and different types of side effects, the extent of them differ. But for the most part, these vaccines are pretty good, right? Pretty good. And if you're going to have any kind of really bad side effects, you're going to have it within the first 2 days, definitely within the first 2 months. But I say this, of the 225-year history of vaccinations and vaccines, yeah, they basically know within a few days, within a few months, whether they're going to have any terrible side effects. And for the most part, it's majority of people benefit from these vaccinations. This whole notion about microchips and all these things being, if the government wanted to track us, they're already, but by the way, they're already doing it. They can do it. We get cell phones. So unless we're willing to give up our cell phones, in fact, our cars get those trackers now for GPS, yeah? So it's all around us. They can track us. They do anyway for many different, for marketing and so forth. So it's happening. So if people are hesitant, hey, we always say, talk to your family doctor, talk to your kauka, someone you trust, who is a medical expert and who knows what they're talking about, right? Because there's all these things that's out there over social media that we have to avoid and be careful of.